Hello, good morning, good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to another live episode of Women Unleashed here in Grace Harris, author and transformational coach. I want to welcome you to a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful episode today. We are going to be talking about the value of our everyday choices in relation to intergenerational transformation. For those of you who have not watched this series before, my name is Grace Harris. I'm your host. And what I do and what I've done is I've gathered a collective of empowering and inspiring women who are authors, coaches, multi passionate entrepreneurs who have been through a journey of overcoming, a journey of transcending, a journey of transformation. And what they do now is they are on a mission to teach others, especially women, to create and embody the same transformation so that we can effectively not just change our lives today and the lives of the people that we love, but change the lives of the people in the future. It's all about intergenerational transformation here. Now, in layman's term, in plain English, really all that is about positive and lasting change. Now, today, I have been honored to have had a yes from this woman, and I'm going to introduce her very, very shortly to you. But before we do go on, I just want to pose this important question to you before we begin our conversation. And the question is simple. The question is this: if you knew that you could make simple decisions and simple choices once a day, every day of your life, for the next 365 days, for the next, even for the next 3 months, for the next 90 days, knowing that those simple daily choices and decisions are going to change your life into a trajectory that you haven't even imagined, in a way that your aging is reversed, in a way that your family is so much more bonded, in a way that your lifestyle is a lot more abundant, in a way that your energy and your vitality and your health is just full on peak to the max. I mean, wouldn't that be worth it? Especially if it is just little biohacks, little choices, little decisions every day. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because as for myself, as a 40 something, mid 40s, and a little bit above woman who's been through two children, who's been through a few ailments, a couple of major operations, lots of things. I know the value of creating change. I know the feeling of someone, of a medical practitioner saying to you, you've got a condition and it is degenerative. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And then reversing that, making my own choice to actually disprove what is a symptomatic diagnosis. So we will make it really, really basic language today because this is a conversation. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to my guest. She is an everyday biohacking mentor. For me, she is an everyday biohacking expert. And Nira Roche is here with us to really educate us and inspire us with her story. So, without, as I say, further ado, Nira, welcome. Good morning. Thank you for being with me
Good
today. How are
morning,
you?
Grace. Good morning, Grace. I'm great. I'm feeling really good.
Awesome. You do look beautiful. You sound really good. So thank you for being here. Nira, I'm a really, really big fan of yours, and you know this because what you talk about is life changing. And I know this because I've seen it happen. I've recently been in a 16-week health program. And so I've had women classmates in that program. And we talk about what you talk about. And we've seen one another change our lives through everyday choices towards our health, energy, vitality, and life in general. So, Nira, I always want to find out first, why have you become tell us who you are, where you're hailing from, what you do, but also mainly why have you become passionate about what you do?
Well, I'm a biohacking mentor, as you said, and I came to that because of a lifelong journey of trying to seek exactly those things: vitality, energy, emotional stability. At the age of 12, I developed a joint condition, and over time, it I got progressively worse. Well, the degeneration of the joints got worse. But the thing that really held me back, it wasn't that I could no longer do activities that any other child could do, like play. Before that, I was hyper flexible, strong. I was fast, very naughty, very, very naughty. And I kind of say now that it tamed me. It really tamed me. I don't know where I would have gotten to. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have gotten up to. Um, but what really, really held me back was the level of exhaustion. I was constantly exhausted. I'd come home from school and go to bed. And eventually, when I did get to work or I'd go to uni was I couldn't even sit down on the train because I wouldn't have enough time to get up to get out of the train because the doors would have shut by the time I got up to get out of the train. So I'd come home exhausted, go to bed, and with work I'd turn off the engine of the car. I'd drive back home. I'd turn off the engine of the car and sleep for 2 hours. So before I had that energy to get in. So it was the energy that really stopped me. And there was a point of time when I couldn't even read. And to me, that was really important because I needed to find ways that was going to help me. And so it's been a lifelong search of finding some ways that I can help myself to have more energy. And interestingly, as my energy improved, that my whole condition, my whole body seemed to go into a relief. And it was by making small changes. And the reason why I want to share that, and I'm super passionate about it, is because it can change people's lives and it can educate and it can flow down through generations. So that's really important to me.
Yeah, wow. Oh, goodness. I am just so amazed. So, with your story, the reason that I am so fascinated is because I wanna put it into perspective for myself and for everyone who's listening here. You talk about your joint starting to develop aches and pains and degenerate from the age of 12. I think that's very important, from the age of 12, because for most of us this happens in our 30s, 40s, 50s. So you've pretty much all of your important developmental life spent it trying to battle something that most of us don't even get to see until we've already lived our life of, our life of fun, our life of childbearing life, our life of enjoying uni. You had to go through your most important phases and events of your life with this thing, this aching joints really holding you back. So we talk about there's a concept of an expert having you can call an expert once they have done 10,000 hours, and it applies to everyone: speakers, authors, coaches, and even Tony Robbins has recently written a book called Life Force about biohacking, and he is an expert because he's been doing that for 20, 30 years. But you've been doing this for pretty much 40 to 50 years. So, as an expert, it really is you. Nira, that's just a perspective that I really just wanted to make sure that we all get here, because I feel like For most, so you have to correct me here if I'm wrong, but for most people, because not many experience what you've experienced, and that you've started with the joint aches and pains and degeneration of your joint at the age of 12. But if it was that early, most, what I would say is that most possibly, if you weren't biohacking and really getting into how you can help yourself, at this age it would have already been so much worse. And instead of recovering your vitality, I dare say that most people would have already kind of like given up. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, there's, I'd like to go back to a point that you made about, for me, as you say, I didn't realize I had anything to offer people. It took me up until recently to really, because I've been asking for years, Lord, please let me serve, let me serve. Because these biohacks have been so much a part of my life, it was normal. And that's what I want to make it for everyone, that it's become so much a part of their life that it's normal. And so to have something, when I realized I had something to share that was going to be life-changing for people, that was for me the biggest gift of having gone through this process. For me, a real it's been a gift that I've been given, and now I can share that with others. And I forget in that I was got a bit emotional, Grace. And
I noticed.
um,
Yeah.
so, what was the question again?
So my question is not so much now relevant as to what you just said then, because this is what this is all about. What we're bringing up to the surface here is what we've really taken out of our journey, in terms of how the 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 bigger scheme. You're talking now, Nira, about unconditional faith, and and I feel that for many of us, let's bring it down to reality. For many of us, we could get sick, and then we have a choice of focusing on the fact that we have gotten sick, or a choice of focusing on that unconditional faith that I know my body will heal. I don't know how, but I will keep going. It is going to be my life mission. And as I heal, I know that I will find a way to serve and help others. And
But
that's, yeah.
that wasn't how I started with it. I didn't. That was as I said. It's just been recent that I've realised that I have got a way to serve others. But what you say about unconditional faith, I I don't know where it came from, and I question myself where that came from. I really have no idea. I know I had faith in something greater than myself, and that loved me unconditionally. And I had faith that our bodies can heal, that my body can heal. And that was my true north. That has always, and I think that's what kept me going, in even in a point of time when I was being rolled in bed, my food would be given in bed, and I was in a wheelchair, and that's not long ago. I'm talking about 5 years ago. Um, that I, it was my true north. There was just no doubts, because what was the other option? To end up in a nursing home, which came very close. I mean, I could barely get my hand to my mouth to feed myself. So it was always having this unshakable belief, this unshakable vision of being in the future, being able to get to a point where I can be independent. And I'm still not, I still need a carer for some activities, personal activities. But I am so much more able. I'm not in a wheelchair. I can walk distances. I can lift weights. I can be functional on many levels. And but it's the joint damage, the years of relentless joint damage that are still holding me back from being totally independent. But that's coming because I know, because as my body's healing, and it's been an accumulation of layer upon layer of biohacks. And I wouldn't have ended up in a wheelchair or in a being rolled in bed in 5 years ago if I hadn't changed my diet quite drastically. And I changed my diet quite drastically to include a lot of fat, cut down all my sugars, and have fat now. A low sugar or minimal sugar, little bit of fat diet is not a bad thing. It's a great thing. But my husband and I were cooking in duck fat, beautiful, beautiful meals, and we way overdid the fat. And after a lot of investigations, and my integrative doctor sent my stool sample off to Germany and found that, and that stool sample came back, and I had a Zoom call with a specialist. And in that Zoom call, what they discovered was that he said, he was just looking at a piece of paper with a list of all the bacteria, my gut bacteria, and he was reading off, should be aging super fast, which I was. My hair was starting, first time, was starting to go grey and my eyebrows were going. Should be starting to have difficulty with the memory, which I was. I was literally aging. I was like an 90-year-old. And I was, my memory was going, my cognition wasn't there. And my skin was awful. It looked cracked and dehydrated. And it was because he said she'd be aging really fast because her gut bacteria has been taken over by fat-eating bacteria, and they're putting endotoxins into the bloodstream. And his recommendation was just to cut out all fats and go on to having olive oil.
Wow. Okay, so let's break this down because it's so important. But before I go into before I dive deep into the biohacking part, I want to just acknowledge you for talking about unconditional faith because it looks different to many of us. I have spoken now to so many people who have been told that their cases are going to make them regress instead of progress, and I myself is one of those. I have a friend and a former mentor. He was told after a car accident, you'll never be able to walk again, and he had that unconditional faith about himself, and he said, yeah, well, you just watch me. He's like, I haven't seen anyone stronger than this man, right? Like he walks so fast, and and yourself and myself, I've been told, I once was diagnosed with patellofemoral osteoarthritis degenerative disease, and it's only going to get worse and not going to get better. And my thought at that time when I was told was, you're not going to tell me what's going to happen to me. So I just want to as a segue to biohacking, what I want to say is that when you have the unconditional faith about your true north, about what you're really capable of, or about your body that you know it's going to get better and going to heal, yes, that's one big major component. That's the main thing, but it's got to be injected with actions and decisions. And this is where biohacking really comes in. This is where everyday choices really comes in. For me, what that looked like was I had to do something drastic. I came from a uh, what do you call sedentary lifestyle. I was in corporate, and all I did was watch TV after work, didn't have any exercise. So what I did was I went from sedentary lifestyle to taking up something that would really strengthen my body, which at the time was pole dancing, and it really helped me, along with nutritional changes and supplements and whatnot. So for everyone it looks different. So I want to I guess, Nira, if you would, for me, my next question would be, if you could just define for us what in plain English is biohacking. But before we go to that one, I wanted to dive deep into your story that so because it's important, especially for women, there are so many things, different advice that we can get about this is the way you should eat, this is that diet is called this, or that diet, or this diet. And often yeah, it's really about getting to know our bodies, isn't it? And that really showcases to me the expert that you are, because you've gone through the lengths uh, of getting examined all the way from Germany. That's a big, oh my goodness, that's a really, really big commitment and dedication to getting to know exactly what's going on in the gut. So gut health. So please, can you please just define for us in layman's term what is biohacking, and tell us a little bit more about gut health and those bacteria that live there. Where do they come from when we are born, and what happens after we are born with our gut bacteria?
So, layman's term, biohacking is just little hacks, little changes, little tweaks. It can be major tweaks, but most people don't need major tweaks, but little tweaks that can, I see it as reversing our aging. That's because that's literally what it does. And I'm an example of that. In 5 years, I have reversed my age from literally just physically looking at me from someone that's a very old person to someone that's, looking very well for 60 plus years. and and that to me is what biohacking is. They're small changes, and the importance of the gut bacteria. That's we get our initial gut bacteria gets into our gut when we come down the birth canal of mum. The child takes a big gulp of that fluid, and that's what inoculates inside our gut. And over time, it changes depending on our foods that we choose to eat. Antibiotics can kill off a lot of our indigenous, that's our native, mother-given, inherited from generations. Bacteria can die in that process. And to recultivate what might be surviving is through dietary changes that support growth of the good guys. And the good guys can be supported through incorporating products that we may not digest that well, but the gut bacteria digests it. Things that usually make us very gaseous is a good start because they're having a great feed. So things like lentils and beans and garlic, onion. A Mediterranean diet usually has uh, the combination of things that have a really good for our gut bacteria. And that's a great way of fostering their growth because, quite honestly, without them, we wouldn't be here. They help in so many processes. They produce so many things that actually help us, the good guys, those pathogenic ones that are running rampant. They're like the rogues that want to take over. They can be held down, and it can make taking care of your gut is almost vital. But it's a process. A good probiotic can help there, and changing, feeding those good guys can really help.
Thank you. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to illustrate this colony of good guys and bad guys. So we are born. So you're saying we're born with what we need, which is, I think, is it called mitochondria? Is that what it is?
No,
And
mitochondria, they're within our cells. So they're what we're born within our gut. Well, if we come down the birth canal, and I do know women that are a little bit more savvy that realize that that's a really important process. They will actually put some of their vaginal fluid into the mouth of the child if the child is a cesarean section. So they'll use a swab or something and put it on their child. It's really important actually. Otherwise, you've got anything can come in and take hold.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, very educational. Yeah. So, yeah. So we are born with what we need, but our lifestyle and and the way that we live and the way that we eat, changes the fundamental goodness that's inside of us. And so, I'm imagining this, good guys and bad guys. And the reason why I feel so strongly about this now is because this has been my own lived experience. The health of my gut health in the last 12 to 18 months, like I always say, my body started changing when I hit 40. And it was a very much an education piece for me, where before age of 40 I could eat anything I want, do whatever I want, and I would be in what I thought was peak state. And then that changed very, very drastically over 40. And then I started to question, even the way that I ate and my diet and my lifestyle before I was 40, that led me to feel this way now. And it has been a proven study now that gut health is really part of the health of our brain, the way that we think, the way that we produce, the way that we create, because it affects our sleep, it affects the way that we think, it affects our energy. And for me personally is that, you talk about energy, Nira. So what happened to me in about September of last year is, my so I, like you, I've always been sort of like a hypo kind of person. I have like a, shiny object syndrome. I can't sit still. I've always got projects going, so I'm always just doing, doing, doing. And then I found myself in September last year where got so bad energy wise. Around 11 a.m. In the day, I would start to call it a day and retire because I'm tired. I don't have any more. And that's like not even halfway through the day. And it got me to a point where I started to feel quite depressed about myself. And anyway, long story short, when I got into a health program, I found out, I went through a process of, and you talk about everything here. I went through a process of just reducing the things that could be aggravating everything, like sugar, gluten, alcohol, dairy. Lucky for me, I don't drink alcohol. I don't really like dairy. Chocolates, I hardly ever eat them. But it was so hard for me to give up gluten and sugar because, and this is where mindset comes in. I just want to tell this story very quickly. It was so hard for me to give up gluten and sugar because of my personal relationship with my food. And I was talking to a mindset coach in this team of health experts, and we uncovered how I felt about my relationship with food. And it went back all the way to childhood, where I remember times where I had to hide some of my food underneath my rice so that no one would pinch it, or I would have to eat it really quickly so that no one would take it away from me. There was just another a high level of lack of something to eat. And so as I grew older and I developed a fondness for sweets, I would make sure that I can have every sweet that I can get my hands on. And now that I'm in a place where I can eat any type of sweet that I want anytime I want, I have this relationship where why would I waste that when I came from a time when I couldn't have anything? And so the relationship was so hard to give up. For me, there was a feeling of guilt and shame for a behavior of wasting the croissant, wasting the last bite of my cake. You know, it was that was really, and it was accumulating in my gut, the sugar and the gluten, and it was and so I had to change the mindset so I can accept what my gut needed. I just wanted to to tell that story.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part. The hard part is that when those bad guys are predominantly taken over, you will gravitate to, and that's a really good indicator of who's dominant. Are you gravitating to the sugary, sweet products? Are you wanting foods that aren't really nourishing you? Are you wanting those cakes and the croissants? That is probably one of the best indicators you've got of who is dominant. And because they literally put out chemicals into your body saying, come on, I'm hungry, feed me. They've taken over your brain. And it's a matter of saying, hey, who's in charge here? I really don't like the idea of a whole lot of toxic guys that aren't really interested in me. They're just wanting to have a party in there. And really saying, okay, I'm going to change this. I'm going to nurture those indigenous species, the guys that want me to be flourish. I'm going to nurture that. And I think you'll see a big difference when you start nurturing those guys. But I'd like to say, Grace, that just in case our listeners think, oh gosh, this is all dietary changes, biohacking isn't. Biohacking can be as simple as getting sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning so that you can reset your clock and be able to have a better night's sleep at night time. And that might be whether you choose to leave your sunglasses off when you're driving to work for 20 minutes, or you go for a walk and leave your sunglasses off first thing in the morning. Or like me, I like to look directly at the sun, but to blink so that I'm not burning my retina. I blink a lot, turn my head around at different angles to try and get that light into my eyes. And you'll find that when that doesn't happen, over wintertime, people that as winter comes in will have problems, like women especially will have problems sleeping more during winter because they're not getting that light into their eyes like they normally would, and they get depression, or they have that the symptoms of, I'm never really good over winter. So that's a really simple biohack. The other one is sitting, squatting. Sitting Kills was a book written by an astronaut, a NASA scientist, and she was employed by NASA to find ways that can reduce aging, because the astronauts age very fast. when they're out in space. And her assignment was to find a way to reduce that aging. And she wasn't getting very far. But she was attending a hospital, she was going to hospital to visit a sick friend. And the neighbour, her inmate in that room, her friend's inmate, was not able to walk. But what she found, her inmate would stand up. So here she was visiting her friend, but she'd be watching this woman that would just get up from bed on a stroller and just stand. And then she'd sit down for a while, and then she'd get up again and stand. And over time, she found that within weeks that this lady progressed really, really fast. And so she went to investigate going from sit to stand, squatting like you would when you use a squat toilet, squatting down and coming up, or to pick up something that you've dropped. You go and you squat down and go up. And she found that reduced aging dramatically. That is 36 times over the day, just as not as an exercise, so you don't do it in 5 minutes up and down. So you use any excuse at all to go down, whether if you're going for a walk, you find something beautiful, squat down, pick it up and come back up. And if you can't squat like me, I will go into a semi-squat position against a wall and come back up. You get, my glutes are getting to be more toned than they've ever been, that my husband knows of, he says. And it is a great little hack that revitalizes you. You'll see kids, they're running all day, and then they'll go down onto the ground and come back up with even more energy. It's like, it's a little power boost.
Wow.
I just thought I'll share that, Grace.
That's important. Like, I mean, for the ladies, I mean, here we are thinking that, squatting was all about having to become bootylicious, like, what's her name? Jennifer Lopez. But it's actually a biohack to help reverse aging and get more vitality and energy. That's so cool. I think that the things that we don't know, it's important to to put light into things that we do good for ourselves but we don't know, so that we can be more conscious of it and do it more with the intention. So that's the importance of learning these small hacks. So how do you, as an everyday biohacking mentor, Nira, where how do you share these tips and hacks? Because obviously, for me, I wouldn't be able to imagine myself reading a whole entire book for my hacks for the whole year. I'd rather just like listen once a day, or like be refreshed, be inspired. Is there anywhere that you share these tips and hacks?
Yeah, well, on Instagram and Facebook, I try to get on every day just to give a little bit of inspiration, encouragement. Every now and again, I will post an actual new hack that you can start to incorporate. And over time, it's that layer by layer of simple things that you can do that will upgrade your energy and vitality. And I think once you start getting to feel vital and energetic, once you start experiencing like a very simple hack that I won't go into at the moment, but because it takes time to go through and you feeling absolutely refreshed when you get out of the shower and you're feeling energized, that gives you a really good indicator of how you can be. And maybe I should, Grace. Have we
Yes,
got
please.
time?
I was gonna say.
Okay. So when you having your shower, if you're having it in the morning, nighttime, it doesn't really matter, but in the morning, if you want to feel absolutely refreshed and fantastic. So you have your normal shower, and right at the end, you turn down, no, you turn up your cold water. Leave the hot water as it is, you turn up your cold water. Now, I do it because I've got a handheld one, so I can direct where that cold hits. Um, so turn up your cold water and just, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be frozen. Just drop the temperature of the hot water till you're still fairly comfortable, and then turn down your cold water again. And then stand underneath that warmer water, get yourself warm again, and then turn up your cold water right up and turn off your hot water. That first conditioning that you did, it's already started to give a signal to your body. It's already started to signal your cells. So the second cold that you're doing, you're not going to find that you're frozen. You're going to find that you're absolutely, when you step out of that shower, refreshed and vital. And that's a really good, that's a really quick hack, because it's probably only, depending on, it might be adding a few more, maybe up to a minute more in your shower. So you can even have a shorter shower if that's an issue for you, and do this at the end. But it's a really, really good hack for anybody that wants to start their day off feeling incredibly refreshed. And when you've got that, then you know that, hey, I can access this kind of vitality.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful education here this morning happening for all of us so far, just in this conversation of about, what is it, 30, 40, 50 minutes that we've had, what I've taken is you can hack the way that you sleep through just knowing when to put that healthy light into your eyes, and tweaking, just your movements matter a lot, and being conscious of the good movement, like Nira was talking about, sitting, and then even the what you're saying to your body when the way that you have the shower, how you manipulate the temperature. And even when Nira said about, that was really big for me, I got a little bit emotional when we were talking about being conscious of what you put in there for to promote your good bacteria. And when she said about, Nira, when you said about the best indication that you are fostering the bad bacteria is that when you are actually craving for the things that are making you feel worse, like in my case the sugar and the gluten. And that's all I could think about, but it was the more that I ate it, the more that I got worse. And so it was, you had this phrase that really impacted me emotionally. You said, it's taking over. So so are you gonna let it take over, or are you gonna stick to what Nira was talking about, your true north, your unconditional faith that your body has a capability to heal, but it comes from your faith first. You need to have that belief. You need to know who you truly are and tap into that and use that as your guiding light to what's possible, not just for you, but for your entire family and for the future of your family. And we're talking about transformation, not just now, but intergenerationally. That's it's been. I'm so grateful for this conversation. But Nira, my next and last question, I guess, in the interest of time, is that we all have once or twice in our lives some secret sauce that have really kind of helped us through. And an example for myself is that when I had that, but again, I'm gonna say the words, and it doesn't matter what it is, but just because it's very long. When had a diagnosis years and years ago of patellofemoral osteoarthritis degenerative disease, and I was told that I was gonna get worse in the way that I walk and in the way that my joints are, and I reversed that. One of the things that I swear by, which is like a personal accidental discovery, is that every day from then on, I took supplements that I still take to this day once a day, and it's very basic. You can get it from off the shelf in supermarkets. I think it's called glucosamine or something, and I swear by it's like one of my secret sources. And for you, I guess I'm just gonna ask you: has there been one or two secret sources that you could share with us here or in private? What's your thoughts on this?
Well, there is a secret sauce for me, and it's another biohack. I've partnered with a biohacking company that produces three, that addresses three ways that our bodies age, and with three pills. So it's a really simple biohack that you can take daily, and it it almost equaled what it almost equals every biohack summed up together that I do. So it's a massive leveling up of how we how we function: energy, vitality, emotional stability. That is my secret sauce. And if our listeners would like to know more about that, just join me on Recovering Leopard on Instagram or Facebook. Call myself Recovering Leopard because I want to recover that suppleness and that speed and strength that I had before the age of 12. And and send me a message. I'd love to connect with you and have a chat. And the other way would be to email me, Nira Roche at gmail.com. That's NIRAROCHE at gmail.com if you don't do Instagram or Facebook.
Thank you so much. I think that's a very important information there on how to connect with you, because there are so many women here listening to us who have got really, really, really busy lives. And you don't have to carve so much out of your time from your current lifestyle to really biohack towards your vitality and health and ease. There are ways and means that you can find secret sources. So if you want to connect with Nira, did you say so Facebook and Instagram, just type in Recovering Leopard. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm
And
the only one there.
okay. Thank you so much, Nira. It's been such a pleasure. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us on this Sunday morning. And we hope that you have taken some value and some really good stories from here. We love you. And remember, you are amazing. Stay amazing. Be amazing. And I will see you again on the next live episode of Women Unleashed. Goodbye, everyone.